going on, YouTube? Out here today to talk about my other carry gun, the CZ75 Compact. This is a 2011 manufacture in the duotone finish, currently wearing some eBay special wood grips made by some guy in Thailand. The current round count on this particular example is just north of about 1,000 rounds. I don't really shoot it all that much as it is predominantly a carry gun and I don't use it for competition. So in it's early 2017 as I record this, and I guess the question everybody watches with all these videos is, why would I choose a 30-year plus old platform for a carry gun when there's so many other options out there? So just kind of dive right in on that. It's actually a very comfortable carry gun. The weight is well proportioned. The CZ slide rides inside the frame, which keeps the weight at the top of the gun down, so most of the weight is kind of right here in the center of the gun, so it kind of balances well. It's not going to be as exaggerated when it's riding in the holster, but like all compact size guns, it is going to want to kind of turn out because of all the weight in the grip. It's not as bad, it's not as exaggerated as like my Glock 19 or M&P 9C that I was carrying for a while in that regard due to the steel frame. That said, the steel frame does make the gun about 10 ounces heavier than a Glock 19. So if you're a big nut and fancy guy and are totally bent around the rim on the size and weight constraints of a particular firearm, then this may not be the firearm for you. Another thing that kind of makes it more of a special or not necessarily for everybody is it is a double single gun. So and it has a manual safety. So the first pull is going to be double action. Action's going to cycle. Now we're in single action. You only let out to there. Out of the box, the trigger pull is going to be about 10 pounds on the double action and about 5 pounds on single. Why this is nice is the first trigger pull in double action is very long and heavy. So it's very intentional. Even if something does superficially snag the trigger, you've got a better chance of it not going off. And you can hammer check. If you place your thumb on the hammer as you reholster, the gun cannot fire. If you're a old school cocked and locked guy but just get sick of the grip safety on a 1911, which is pretty much exactly why I got into this platform, you have the option of going cocked and locked. The safety is a nice safety. It has a good positive snick to it. But the other nice thing about the CZ platform is when the hammer is down or even at half cock, the safety will not go on the firing pin block models unless you fit a competition hammer. As far as shooting is concerned, you'll have a hard time finding a gun that matches the footprint of this gun that shoots as well as this does. The slide in frame design makes it track very consistently. It's very mechanically accurate, and it feels very, very good in hand. The rigid frame really gives you confidence. You can put as much pressure on the grip as you want, and you can change out the grip panels for as much or as little texture or aesthetics as you care for to get. I mean, these are just diamond grips from Thailand, as I mentioned, and this is significantly more grippy than probably anything but like an RTF2 finished Glock. Certainly more than the M&P, maybe not the M&P 2.0s. So we'll take it over to the tabletop to discuss all of the technical data that we didn't already touch on and go from there. So as of the time of recording this video, it is for sale on most online gun shops for less than $500, so it's about Glock Gen 3 territory. It's currently available in the black polycoat version, which I would recommend as the finish will be a little bit more robust. You can kind of see where the finish is starting to go at the blued corner there at the muzzle. You can't really tell on the video, but the paint is actually kind of wearing down a little bit on the lines there. And the black polycoat is significantly more robust. That's what's on my full-size 75B, and I'm very satisfied with it. It's going to come with two 14-round magazines plus one in the chamber. These are steel magazines made by Mechgar. They're going to come with, this is legitimately a Mechgar magazine, not one of the OEM mags, and they're going to come with a steel base plate at the bottom made out of stamped metal. I would recommend changing it as I have. This is the P01 rubber base plate from the CZ P01. It's available from Greg Coat LLC for about $9. I think the Beretta plastic base pads, also sold by Greg Coat, are on there as well. They're like $4 or $5, but the sheet metal ones will dig into the pinky of your hand as you have a firing grip and make a nice little lip. You can see with the magazine in the gun there. Creates a nice little ledge for your pinky, as opposed to the sheet metal that would be digging into my pinky finger otherwise. So the trigger, as mentioned, is about 10 pounds out of the box and 5 pounds in single action. That you can see the trigger reset point there. So there's a little bit of take up. That's where the wall is, where the sear is riding on the hammer hooks, and that's just going to take about 5 pounds. There's a little bit of creep, and then it snaps through, and a little bit of over travel. The double action is on this particular model. There's a little bit of a hitch. You can see right there, kind of a hitch. I didn't polish it away. I'm sure I could if I wanted to. It's not enough to notice on the back of a galloping horse, but the trigger pull weight with the Cajun SRS-2 kit currently in it is about the it's about 7.5 pounds on the double, 5 pounds on the single. The book weight we'll get into later, fully loaded. We'll get into that a little bit later. Other just little tidbits about the platform is the firing pin block is retained, or the firing pin is retained by that roll pin. If you dry fire a whole lot, you can shatter that roll pin. I have shattered 2 of them on this gun when I was just dry firing it a lot, trying to get used to the new platform when I first got the gun. Also, if you dry fire a lot, you'll break the trigger return spring. I don't think I've actually broken the trigger return spring in this gun. I have on my other models that I use in competition, but it's something that's worth changing on a regular basis if you do shoot or dry fire a lot. For my competition guns, it's twice a year. For this gun, it's going to be kind of as needed because I really don't dry fire it very much. So, maybe at 3,000 rounds, if I get up to that, I'll consider changing it out. The grip screws that it comes with are blued, and I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but they're kind of rusting on the inside. That's pretty typical for any gun with grip screws. So you can swap them for stainless. There's another guy who even sells brass ones. I might get some brass ones. That'd be kind of cool. The trigger is the standard 75 kind of recurve trigger. You can kind of see it there. It does not have the over travel stop on the face of it like the CZ85. Some people really hate this profile of trigger and swap it for the 85. It works fine for me. I don't have any issues with it. The controls, as you can see, are kind of blued or parkerized, and that's not just a reflection, like the finish is actually coming off from use. The sights are a 3-dot combat sight. I swapped the front sight for a Cajun Gunworks front sight with a fiber optic. I don't really care for this sight picture. I probably will, if it makes it back into my carry rotation more, I will probably swap them for aftermarket sights. As far as modifications that you have to do to make the gun run, there really aren't any. It's fine out of the box. Kind of wish I hadn't done the work on it that I already have, but I'm too lazy to go back and change it. The CZ75 platform is more difficult to work on than a Glock. If you were to do an armor level strip, the tools you would need would be a flathead screwdriver to take that out, a set of pin punches, roll pin punches if you got them, but you can use pin punches. You'll need a flathead jeweler's screwdriver and a lot of patience, and maybe some extra springs because some of these suckers will launch. The only modification that I enthusiastically recommend is swapping that pin right there for the Cajun Gunworks floating trigger pin. That floating trigger pin allows you to punch that pin out to change the trigger return spring without a hammer. The pin that comes in there is flared on one end, so you have to drive it out from the non-flared side so that the flared end kind of backs out because it's tapered. And you will need a starter punch to do so, and a big heavy hammer, and a lot of cuss words or patience, depending on what your personality is like. The only other things about the platform that I don't particularly care for is the size of the mag release. That, for whatever reason, I have a hard time like not totally breaking my grip and getting magazines to drop with it. Not a big deal. I mean, considering mag changes in a self-defense scenario is extremely unlikely. Not the biggest deal, but it's just while we're in here wishing for things, that's one thing I would wish for. As far as actually taking the thing apart, let's see if we can do this on camera. So you got little notches right there, same as the other ones. So just get those bad boys to line up. Use the corner of your magazine to push out this pin right there. Pull it out of the frame. Slide's going to lift off without pulling the trigger. Recoil guide and recoil spring is loose. Will come out right there. Some people would rather have a captive recoil spring, and I'm here to tell you that I prefer it that way because you can change the spring out more easily. So there's the barrel with a single locking lug on the top. The CZ75 full size has 2 lugs there. You got the peanut that the slide pin goes back in, so to put it back together, it just kind of goes back through. There's your firing pin block for people who are interested. You can see the rails there. There is a dimple. There's a dimple on the barrel right there that corresponds to this pimple, I guess, on the back of the recoil guide. So it's just going to fit it right back in there. Slide that back into the frame. Line up our notches. Slide that back through there, and look at that. Didn't even have to use cuss words, so trigger resets and we're good. So that is the CZ75B. Let's throw it on the scale and look at what comes in the box. Fully loaded, the CZ75 compact is going to tip the scales at about 2 pounds 6 ounces. That's with these aftermarket wood grips, and I'm using, I think, 80 grain Ruger ARX loads right now, loaded in it, 15 of those bad boys. The book weight on one of these unloaded is just over 2 pounds at like 32.8 ounces, so it's going to be significantly heavier than its polymer counterparts, but for some people that's a good thing, and the frame rigidity is certainly a good thing. The box that they ship with is a pretty nice plastic affair. You open it up and you've got the nice foam cutouts like that. The 2 magazines are going to start right there. You've got these things, which who knows what they use those for. I guess you could lock your bike up at Starbucks maybe. Probably the coolest thing is they come with test targets. These test targets are really function tests, but they're fired at 25 meters. So that's the digitized version of the target they test fired the gun with, which 25 meters, that's, 30 yards or so. That's pretty good, especially considering that they're not really trying to group tightly, they're just ensuring function. They tell you at the top that they're shooting cellular and Balat. I think it's 124 grain is what they were doing, rated at 1150 feet per second. But that's pretty cool. I wish more guns came with a test target. You're also going to get a manual, little warranty book, and then the 75 owner's manual. Look at that color picture, top of the line. It's going to be in like 72 languages that nobody really cares about. Look, you can buy shotguns. So there's the parts diagram. It's kind of cool. They do ship it with a parts diagram, but you can see there is clearly more parts involved in this little gun than there are on the Glock design. So just keep that in mind. We discussed the pieces that come with it, or you need to take it apart, but that's everything that goes in there. It's a little bit more difficult to work on than is the Glock pistol platform. So that's the CZ75 compact. It is a great option for people who don't mind additional weight for a more rigid gun that is very easy to shoot, generally more practically accurate. You don't really hear about people with big issues shooting left on their CZ75s quite like other brands of pistol. It's a great option for those people who compete with a double single gun. It's a little bit more svelte than like the Beretta 92 series, or even the SIG 229 series. It has a really nice trigger, and it only improves with time. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. Please like and subscribe, maybe even share, drop it on the forum. Leave me a comment, ask any questions. I love engaging in the comments section. Check out my USPSA match videos if you want to see my shadows in action, or see how bad I am at practical shooting on a given day. That's certainly an option available to you. Thanks for your time. See you next time.